All right, and we are live with the after show. Right now, I have with me RJ Downard. I am expecting at least Corporal Anon and Gutsick Gibbon to be coming in. I'm not sure about Jackson Wheat. I think he's coming in, but we will see what happens. So yes, I am your host, the Dapper Dinosaur, for this after show. I was there for the whole debate, although I did take some breaks to kill digital demon monsters in Doom, because some of it was getting a little headachy. So I killed some demons while I was listening, but I was paying attention the whole time. So RJ, what did you think?
Yeah, well, I was able to stay for the first hour, and then I went off to do my evolution hour, and then when I found out that he was still going on, TD Lane said, oh shit. So I came back in and caught maybe the last 15 minutes of it. When Nephi had started up his spiel, it was clear that he was presenting the kind of standard model of stuff, and he had a kind of blurry PowerPoint or article that he had written up, which was always suspicious when things are awfully blurry. Yeah. And then by the time we got back in, he was just entirely on tropes that I was recalling from creationist literature. So nothing is ever going to prove anything to him. He's absolutely convinced of stuff, but his wild dogmatism on decreeing what the geologic record looks like based on what he thinks he knows of it because of what he's read in creationists, that's what's fascinating.
TD Lane would. Oh, there's the Corporal on the man of the hour himself. I'm going to toss a link to.
I don't think I did as well as I wanted to, but Kevin Hankey thought I did a decent enough job, and I guess that's all I can ask for.
I mean, I think you did a decent enough job because
Yeah.
You said things that one made sense and two had papers backing them up. And Nephi's primary argument was this picture from Google doesn't look like that.
I don't know how many, like...
Hey, Erica.
Sure, you can show me pictures of flat strata covering
we already launched in.
And you would expect that from, a
I love him getting into the geologists, arguing that all these geologists actually agree with him on stuff.
On the subreddit, Erica, I'm actually composing like an afterthoughts thing, and I'm giving examples of geologists who are backing up what I say, because if Neff wants to say it's bullshit.
Hi, Erica.
Hey, RJ. Yeah, I think a lot of Nephi's sort of strategy involves kind of a fair bit of blustering, right? Like he presents several examples sort of in quick succession, and you don't have time to refute every single one of them.
That felt like a Gish Gallop.
Yeah, but it's not really a Gish Gallop, right? Because it's not topics; it's examples within a topic. So it's like a mini gallop.
I looked over his surprise Canyon response, and just none of them. I knew the ones from the creationist literature, and I've trolled through them, but others I've never heard them before, and they're not present anywhere. I don't know where he got it. And he didn't even stick a reference name next to it or anything. It was just, they're found at inconsistent elevations. I've never seen that anywhere.
I have a quick question. Can we call it the mini Gish Gallop the Gish Trot?
Yeah,
because it's not quite a gallop, but it's more than a walk or a canter, right?
Yeah.
The Nephilim Trot.
Yeah, the Nephilim.
Erica, is he going to be posting that presentation that he put up, that blurry article that he had? Is he going to be putting a link so that we mortals can see it?
I hope so. I mean, all I can do is express it and hope that he abides by it. I think if he doesn't post it, that's quite telling.
He claimed he would, right?
Yeah. So my hope, he said, because he said he couldn't do it during the debate, and I was like, well,
what does he need to post? Oh, I need to give you all my sources too.
Yes, give them to me, or you can.
You have them in the PowerPoint I gave you.
Yeah, I have the PowerPoint. I can forward it to Standing if you would like, so that he can put some of the links in the description. Would you like that?
Sure. Or if you don't want to send him the whole thing, you can just copy and paste the references and send them.
That was my plan. Yeah, I'm not going to say. Okay. I don't think I would put that on Standing to carve through them. But
what I found was weird was how I know he says he didn't say that it was a flood intrusion, but it really sounded like that's what he was getting at. And then he wanted to say it was a valley system carved by some post-flood outlet flow or something, and that leaves everything above the Carboniferous to be a post-flood deposit, which every young Earth flood geologist ostensibly rejects.
The thing that was really getting me too is that I feel like, and maybe it was just me, but I felt very similar. Like, I feel like you went through something similar to what I have gone through before, which is that he'll ask the question and then you answer it, but you're not answering it in the way that he wants you to answer it.
I guess not.
So it doesn't count as an answer. And I felt that way with how is every single layer being deposited, but it's made up of different stuff, and then the conditions are changing. So just you get these precise bandings of unique material. And I was sitting there and you would explain it. You would be like, well, obviously the environment is changing and that's what's causing these bands to be unique. But at the same time, it's not like each band is made up of entirely unique material, right? It's just ratios of material that's present.
And there are, he wants to say that they were all deposited at once coming in like that, but not only do unconformities not allow for that, but also when you do actually get up close, like for example, you see the boundary between the Hermit Shale and the Coconino Sandstone. I believe that's the one where it's happening. It's not just suddenly, magically in a blink of an eye, bam, now it's sandstone instead of shale, even though there is sandstone in the Hermit Shale. But you have a period of where the two environments seem to have shifted back and forth, so you get thinner lenses of shale and then sand and shale and sand, and there we go. Now it's completely transitioned. So the evidence of that transition is there. So I don't know.
That Velociraptor example he brought up, that's from Mongolia. That's Aeolian deposits. That's windborne sandstorm that killed off a Velociraptor in the process of attacking an animal.
But RJ, what
I recognize that one.
Also, I guess the idea of a river system getting subsided and filling and becoming an estuary, which we see happening in several places today, is just ad hoc excuses. I guess
it's not like river deltas exist.
Yeah.
Well, and
you were about to say.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say. So what happened with the fighting dinosaurs Velociraptor thing is that during the flood there was an air bubble that got trapped under the water because of reasons, and under that there was a little micro desert that existed, during which a Protoceratops and a Velociraptor were trapped in the microenvironment, and the Velociraptor got hungry, so he attacked the Protoceratops. Then there was a quick little landslide, and then the bubble collapsed, again for reasons.
In the bubble.
Problem solved.
Looking at the literature right now, when he was talking about, you're just saying that there's these pulses when we can say it's just one pulse. I'm looking at an example of an outcrop right now, and all his rapidly buried fossils are actually isolated to very thin bands. So, there is your middle
that's
flood.
why I want to see his source base.
Well, I would
because he's very quick with the claim, but I want to see where he's getting it from.
Yeah. It would be interesting too to dig into fossil burial, like taphonomy in general, because first of all, I can tell you, in my experience, the vast, vast, vast majority of fossils we find have been nibbled on by scavengers and things like this.
So I'm not making it up, right?
I when we're looking at an entire fossil base, right? Because people like to think that the entire base of fossils that we have is all fully articulated skeletons that you find in the death pose. But the fossil base is enormously made up of partial skeletons and things like that. Like, just speaking from the fossil base that I know of,
bits and pieces.
Tons of them are not on. In fact, most of them have been predated on and dragged to a new location.
That's also very much true for the Mesozoic dinosaur fossil record. Like even that paper I showed to you, Erica, for the last video you did.
Yes.
It was primarily some unguals and some other phalanges from the pes of some ornithomimids. Like that was the whole.
In some cases, they can even specifically identify what's doing the eating.
Yeah, the Turkana boy has giant talon marks in the back of his skull from a bird of prey that came down and swooped him to a new location. We find Neanderthals with the base of their skulls, daggered through by the teeth of a Dinofelis or something like that.
Yep, and it's the same in the Mesozoic. We have sauropod finds with Allosaurus tooth marks. We have ceratopsian and ornithopod finds in the late Cretaceous with Tyrannosaurus tooth marks. In fact, Tyrannosaurus tooth marks are one of the ways that we've helped learn how Tyrannosaurus used its premaxillary teeth, because they're actually slightly heterodont. And the question was always, well, why? And so tooth marks in fossils that were scavenged on before they were preserved have helped tell us this. So it's not like a fossil has to, or an animal has to die.
Nephi may be Nephi may be betraying his older brand of creationism here in the fact that he's digging in his heels on predation, because that's a thing they don't want to be true. But the current crop of creationists are kind of allowing that now.
How are they explaining that? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say one thing that I noticed very, very striking about your conversation with him tonight, Corp, is that he seemed very, very keen on honing in on specific examples and just beating them to death. Like, and that's not normally what we see, right? And like normally it tends to be bouncing around, but I think that and I can't say this for sure, and this is pure speculation, but from your opening statement alone, there was so much damning evidence to this idea of a global flood, specifically the Fusane, which I had completely forgotten about, but it kind of almost made sense that he wanted to be very particular about things that, I saw this one reference, from 10 years ago that made X claim about how, thin there's thin laminations between strata, instead of explaining how in a global flood there could be in massive layers of fusane, right?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, did he just not address the Fusane?
No,
didn't talk about it.
Hilarious.
Or the Ice Ages, for that matter.
Is it me, or does Nephilim Free seem to have a problem differentiating between laminae and strata?
That's what I was getting at for a bit of it, but it didn't go anywhere.
But do you think that's the case? Do you think he actually does have that trouble?
On some level, yeah.
Yeah, Neph is I would also be very interested to see where some of those sources are coming from, because
has Nephi been?
Oh, go ahead.
RJ, go ahead. Oh, I think we might have lost RJ.
Well, it was on that very point. Has anyone known Nephi ever to be asked to provide his source base and then not do it?
I don't know enough to...
I don't know. I haven't watched very much of Neph, like doing debates and things like that, because I've never gone toe-to-toe with him.
I honestly tend not to watch much Nephilim Free because he tends to rage quit, and it's very boring most of the time.
Well, Corp, I want to be very clear. I think you did a great job. I
He's got postings, I guess, at a website, and it's all very generic.
Yeah, I noticed too. With regard to the sources, like you mentioned earlier, RJ, they're quite vague, and they seem to pop up. Oh, sorry, were you gonna say something? Well, I'll jump in.
No.
What you said at the end, Corp, was very accurate. Anytime you take these rabbit trails down and you look at, all right, well, what's actually being said? What are the claims that are being made in these sources that creationists are using to back up any given statement? And I found that it's rare that they say in their entire context what the creationist who's using it is hoping that it's saying. Your eggshell example in the most recent video is a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just quote mining, right? It's like literature mining. You're plucking out a single study out of
secondary quote mining.
Right. Yes. Much better way of putting it.
I don't know much of Nephi's material is work he's done his own research versus stuff he's copied from other creationists secondarily. And the only way you could find that out is to be able to see his documentation and to see the arguments he does to find out whether or not he's owning up to where he's getting it from. If he cites technical papers that all coincidentally say exactly what another creationist that he doesn't actually say but presents exactly the same material, you can do that and find out that stuff in a source analysis, but only if you can look at his material.
Also, I think it's very interesting and very telling, and this is just my personal opinion, but if at the end of the day, your refutation for something is, no, I don't think that it does that, which seemed to be what he was saying for environmental deposition, from mountains bringing and depositing sediment elsewhere, and then uplifting, and the whole thing happens all over again, then I don't really think that bodes well for your case. You know what I mean? If you're just going to say, I don't believe it, well, you responded exactly correctly to that. You just got to throw up your hands and say, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
If you just don't believe it, okay, but that's an argument from incredulity. Like, if I were Nephi in that position, I would have hopefully gone forward and been ready to say, well, here's why we don't see this thing that you're positing, as a proper mechanism. Here's why it wouldn't work. But instead, for that particular example, he was just like, no, it doesn't happen. Yeah. All right, I'll buy it.
So we have a comment here that I think
that land erosion one.
Sorry. That I think is worth addressing, and it's from someone whose name I believe is Wang Hongliang, based on my attempts to decipher it, since it's all in Chinese, and I am extremely bad at that. However, Hongliang says the Cambrian explosion proves that complicated living organisms came into existence without precursors, which I think is a bit of a stretch, given that there are macroscopic organisms found in earlier periods, many of which could in fact be basal members of the Cambrian clades, basically.
Well, does the Ediacaran get nothing? Like, does no one care for the poor Ediacaran? We have dozens upon dozens of fossil specimens from the Ediacaran with organisms that are markedly more basal to the organisms we find in the Cambrian. Now, whether or not you can draw a link and say, Dickinsonia evolved into X Cambrian organism, or has a direct line relationship with, I don't know. But to say that there were no organisms prior to the Cambrian, period is, it's kind of outdated to say, because now we've got a rich fossil base to go off of. And not only that, but the rich fossil base that we do have to go off of suggests that the precursors to the Ediacaran organisms were soft-bodied, and therefore wouldn't have preserved well at all, except under extraordinary circumstances. Yeah. Which leads me to question, why don't we have an absolute...
that's your taphonomy thing again.
Yeah, why do we have a bias towards hard-bodied organisms in the fossil record if the flood rapidly buried everything?
Yeah, it's... well, I can tell you one thing.
My favorite example from the Cambrian is that they...
I'm sorry, I think there's a pretty big delay for RJ, so I'm sorry. RJ, you just go ahead. I think what you were going to say is more interesting.
Yeah. Okay. That for me... It's always an ad of where they misdirect to the parts we don't have. The chordates are a perfectly fine example of the fact that when you look at the very earliest chordates that we have in the Cambrian, they are exactly what evolutionists were expecting them to look like. They're like lamprey larvae, and no anti-evolutionist pays the slightest bit of that. Why aren't those early chordates themselves the legitimate precursors of the later chordates? They want to go back, well, where did those come from? Where did those come from? So they're always stepping back to where we don't have an answer, and that's not how you do science, and it's not how you do systematics.
Right, and not only that, but those we've come to a point, in my opinion, where you can draw a pretty good through line from extant organisms back to that first single cellular organism and make probably, this is total speculation on my part, my opinion only, but probably 85% of those big leaps can be covered by existing organisms or paleogenomics. So the question is, all right, well, what's next? Well, we fill in the holes. And what anti-evolutionists like to do is they like to say, well, until you've got, a straight up fossil representation and a genetic representation to match, the theory shouldn't even be considered. When in all likelihood, I've heard it said, and I really do buy into it, but the theory of evolution is more supported than almost any other theory in biology, just because of the sheer body of evidence from every single field that could potentially have a hand in it.
I mean, it's sort of the foundational thought theory in biology. It's the theory on which everything else hangs. It's sort of like general relativity in cosmology. Outside of the very earliest eras of the Big Bang, everything hangs on general relativity. And yeah, it's it's so well supported at this point that overturning it would be like overturning the idea that gravity exists at all. It's just like, how could you possibly overturn just the idea of gravity? I don't know. I don't think you could.
Dapper, your gravity nonsense is stupid, Globehead.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's density and buoyancy. I forgot. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, Corp, I think you did.
And another factor is who's doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and in tonight's conversation, I think that there was quite a bit of sort of battle of the pictures, right? Which you can do a lot with, but at the same time, I think it almost was, perhaps by design, to a hindrance of the bigger picture, right? I mean, we can argue all day whether or not I'm sure geologists, I couldn't do this. I'm not able to do this, but geologists can argue all day about various strata and sort of the minutia of that formation. But when we look at it from the big picture, which is what you beautifully laid out in your opening statement, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, and Nephi, in my opinion, now that I'm no longer a moderator, I think I'm cool to express this. He did an excellent job of really taking the, missing the forest for the trees, so to speak.
Well, speaking of the pictures thing, one thing that I noticed was that, like, I compared it to what might happen to me in a similar vein in a debate that I might have. And so if we're going to go to something that maybe I've debated before, like the bird dinosaur connection, yeah, you could pull out an essentially endless string of photographs of dinosaur fossils that don't show obvious evidence of of fossil feathers. That doesn't negate the ones that do. So Nephi can pull out an essentially endless string of stratification in pictures where it looks like all the strata are very, very flat. So what? I mean, yeah, if you cherry pick pictures from Google Images, which was what it looks like he did, that, confirm your bias, well, I mean, congrats. What is that? That doesn't help us any.
And maybe this might just be the opinion of like an educated geology dum-dum like me, but the ground is flat. So, and it's flat in like a lot of places. So wouldn't you expect?
Yeah, the thing is, topography generally isn't where deposition occurs.
Okay.
Basins are primarily flat and they can be rather extensive. If you had the sea levels drop completely and then a river cut into what was the continental shelf, you would see flat-lying strata covering vast distances. That's not surprising. So I really don't know. I think his issue wasn't so much with the flatness, but was with the change in sediment type. And it's like, dude, environments change, and that causes a change in what's being deposited there. Or so does the source rock. I don't know. I was having a really hard time, even when I understood his argument, understanding how it was a problem. Because it really just felt like it was boiling down to, that sounds stupid, I can't believe that.
Yeah, a lot of it seemed like argument from incredulity, which is, I mean, so the problem I have with argument from incredulity is that from the person making it, it seems really reasonable, right? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why should I believe it? None of what you're saying makes sense, so I'm not going to. Okay, yeah, what else can you do if what someone is saying to you doesn't seem to make any sense and you can't understand how it's possible? But the problem is that, on the other hand, that's not a valid argument that anyone else should take seriously. So you have the thing where, from the subjective personal point of view, it seems like a really great point. But from the point of any outside observers, it's like, well, I mean, who cares if you don't get it?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that sedimentation issue. That I was reminded, we had a section in our book about sedimentation, supposed erosion rates in Hawaii, that when you track down where the creationists got their stuff from, I can't remember whether it was Ariel Roth or Clary or one of that, it turned out they were talking about the erosion of beach sand, not the actual erosion of the volcanic rock. And so so if you took that extrapolation of an erosion of sand versus erosion of rock, I'd love to know where he's getting his numbers from. That's why we got to see his sources.
Well, also,
and what examples he's talking about.
one thing that blew my mind, and I was kind of like, huh, is when he was like, yeah, mountains aren't getting taller. Mountains aren't getting higher. And I was kind of like, what? Yes, they are. That's something you can measure, just like plate tectonics. Like, we know the
fishing lure
Everest's
bobbing
going
mountains.
up about half an inch a year.
Well, and he even said that which mountain is the highest mountain in the world depends on which week you measure it. It's like, well, yeah, that's because the K2 and Mount Everest keep going up, not because they keep going down. So I don't understand what your argument is. You know that that's the case, unless you honestly think that
not
K2
like merry-go-round horses.
Well, and I thought it was really fascinating.
In fact, the only mountains that go down are ones that are eroding because they've stopped going up.
Yeah.
And I thought, too, it was interesting how he was proposing like an opposite geologic column. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I asked him if like he thinks I require there be like trilobites upland somewhere that are getting eroded and redeposited everywhere. And his response was, no, but that is something you have to believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what? All right. That's not true, but okay.
Yeah, I think he'd have trouble getting a lot of his arguments passed at Institute for Creation Research or at AI. He tried to publish them.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem.
Yeah, and the thing is too is that it's sort of in a debate format, right? Like, I think geology is one of those rare things where it's like it almost, because the pictures are so helpful, right? Like it's a double-edged sword. Where it's like on one hand you do have to like search for the pictures and have them and pull them up, but on the other hand it's a great visual aid.
I missed the middle hour, so did Nephi offer much of a pushback beyond just that little snippet that he started out with regarding that Surprise Canyon?
No, we didn't really get that far into it.
Yeah, not that I know of either.
Look, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I got this textbook of the Grand Canyon's geology, and you've got that kind of interfingering of the different sediments, and he just says, that's a drawing, that doesn't exist.
Well, also, like, if you think about it from this is like
paper.
the silliest example ever, but it's like if you have a cake, right, and you slice a cake down the middle, and then you look at it from both sides, from far away, it certainly looks like the layers are flat, but if you get up and look close up to the cake, you find that it's quite fibrous and spongy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interdigitation.
Yeah, maybe because you're bad at baking, Erica. My cakes are always perfectly flat.
So would
I am.
Nephi dismiss Off Canyon book and Ariel Roth's stuff showing just cartoons as being just drawings and therefore not real?
I suppose.
If he was consistent.
Sorry. By the way, I have let Wang Long Qiang know that if I think it's she. It looks like the profile picture is someone in a dress, but I don't actually know. I don't know enough about Chinese names or whatever. But if you would like to come in and defend the young Earth creationist point of view, or even the old Earth anti-evolution point of view, yeah, just let me know. You can email me. I put my email in the chat, and yeah, we'll have you in. We don't, we're not super mean. We will be. We won't exactly, lay down and let you just get away with making unsourced, absurd assertions. But on the other hand, we also, tend not to yell or. I only sometimes bite.
Erica can be our arbiter of civility.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, when I did the moderated for Erica's debate with Bill, I like to think that I did a fairly good job at staying civil.
Oh yeah, Dapper only yelled at me.
That's the job of the moderator. Yeah,
It's
you don't
true,
take
yeah.
sides. You make sure everybody has the equal time and all that.
I didn't moderate Bill once. I only moderated Erica because she kept going, and I was like, "All right, we have to let Bill try to answer."
And I recognize this. One of my biggest faults as a discusser, as someone to chat with, is once I get on a roll, I just start monologuing, and you can't stop me unless you yell at me, in which case that works.
Been there, done that.
I'll have to get a roar together, so that way, when I need you to shut up, Erica, I can just roar at you.
No, exactly. Yeah, I know. yeah, I'm more than happy to chat with someone to come in.
Pepper, could I put the chainsaw away?
So sorry if I'm like, let me do this.
Well, Hong Liang has apparently declined. So, well, they said, I am interested, but I will not. But other than that was retracted, so I don't know what's going on anymore. So, also, we get this nice message from Robert.
Idea worth having is one worth defending.
I would agree. I don't know that I've ever strongly held to any position without being willing to try to defend it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Standing for Truth asked me in the live chat that maybe we could do a debate where I take the creationist position, and as Standing for Truth defends the evolutionist position to see how much we know on it. And I said, sorry, I can't defend a position I don't believe, and especially one that isn't true.
That reminds me of Cheshire Vic.
Yes.
No.
No.
Oh, so Cheshire Vic is she's a YouTuber. She has a primarily art-based stream. Yeah, you were on my channel with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Chesh I like Chesh, and she has this standing thing that she will debate Kent Hovind as long as they switch sides, because she's pretty sure she can do a better job of defending creationism than he can do of defending evolution.
Yeah, that I would actually watch with popcorn.
Yeah,
I would watch that with popcorn too.
No, the biggest debate that I want to see, really and truly, what I would love is to see Kent argue for round Earth and Nathan Thompson argue for flat Earth, and have them go toe to toe.
Oh, Bent Hovind said that a lot.
Yeah, he's criticized flat earthers, but yes, not debate one directly.
Yeah,
well, I would pay money to see that. Make it live. Come on.
Yeah, it would be great. But have you seen Ken Hovind's criticisms? Because it's mostly just calling them morons and then just leaving it at that. And it's like, well, that's not really how you...
And appealing to authority.
Yeah.
Incredibly, he appeals to regular scientific authority for a change.
I love
pretty much the same argument
Bible says
that I think Jason Lyle wrote some criticism of a flat earther too. There's a bunch of little postings at Answers in Genesis on it. Since flat earth is really, and the same thing with geocentrism, that they've posted criticisms of Malcolm Bowden, the geocentrist, on there. And it's just hilarious because it's a collision of two absolutists who believe they have the correct version of the Bible, and eventually they're going to be, no, you don't.
Yeah, it's... Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say one thing that too I think is underplayed is what RJ was kind of just hinting at there, which is that they're both just different interpretations of Genesis and of the books of the Bible in general, right?
Yeah.
So that's what irritates me quite a bit in the God's word, man's word thing that AIG likes to do. It's not God's word; it's your interpretation of the text. So
yeah, you don't have to interpret it like an idiot if you don't want to.
I'm just not.
And then you throw in old Earth creationists and intelligent designers and theistic evolutionists, and now you got a real fist fight spectrum.
Yeah, that's the thing. And it's sort of like, feel free to hold any position that you can or that you would like to, but if you're going to claim that there's a scientific basis for it, you got to put up or shut up, right? Outside of that, whatever, do what you want. Well,
one of the things that always bugs me is, especially, it's been happening a lot in my comments lately. People have been saying things like, atheists believe in evolution. It's like, I'm sorry, hold up. If we take and we add together either the churches or denominations of Christianity that either officially accept evolution or say it's okay to accept evolution, right? We're going to have the Roman Catholic churches, or the Roman Catholic Church, all Eastern Roman Church, or all Eastern Catholic churches, all Eastern Orthodox churches, I believe all Oriental Orthodox churches, as well as virtually all mainline Protestants. Actually, no, I think it's all mainline Protestants. Basically, all you're left with is evangelical fundamentalists and like Jehovah's Witnesses. as the outliers.
Pretty much, and Pentecostals, and even some of them.
Yes, Southern Baptist. There's a wing of
maybe some
one of the synods of Lutheranism, and there's
But yeah, it's
they're asterisks.
vast.
Just as you got a virulent, hyper-conservative Catholic bunch, and the geocentrists are often conservative Catholics.
Yeah, well, but one of the things is the vast majority of Christians belong to, I'll use the most generic term I can, ecclesial bodies, which are okay with you accepting evolution and don't think that it is necessarily a contradiction to Christianity. So it really is a fringe movement even within Christianity. And yet I frequently in comments, especially by the way, Erica, on the collaboration we did on my channel, that got a lot of comments.
Listen,
The comments on that are great.
It got so many hate comments. I might do a comment video just about that video.
wait, on our Kent one.
Yeah, you should check look, there's some there's some hilariousness to be had there. People got really pissed about that.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Anytime you outright roast someone, like there were a lot of Armitage supporters came out for that video that I posted recently, more than I normally get. I had a higher dislike ratio than I normally get too. I think when you outright call someone a fraud, people don't really like that.
Well, same thing apparently about cowards.
Oh, I finally saw that video you linked to, Colton, and holy moly, Armitage is just a vitriolic little nutball.
Yeah, which actually, speaking of the coward thing, so in the last video that I posted, other than a Kent with Bent to my channel, it was a collaboration between me and Erica, where we called out Kent Hovind for cowardice, for basically requiring that anyone who debates him has to be doxable, essentially. It
was very weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. But the thing is, the other interpretation that I have for this is malicious. And I'm going to go with the rule of thumb that you assume that people are not acting basically not acting immorally. And so cowardice is less problematic to me than just absolute maliciousness. So that was the nicer interpretation I could find. I'm giving Kent Hovind the benefit of the doubt and saying he's just an absolute coward who has no confidence in his ability to generally debate people and has to back it up with the threat of doxing if they go too hard on him. I could just say that he's an absolute asshole who just wants to spread people's personal information if he can. That's another option. I could go with that.
The thing that was weird.
Call him a pusillanimous quidnook. Make him run for a dictionary.
Yeah, the thing that was weird about it to me is that it's like, Kent is the one out here who's telling anybody, anyone and everyone, come and debate me. I can debate you with half my brain tied behind my back. I'll debate every professor you've ever had. And then
got that enough to spare.
Yeah, and then he's the one asking for first and last name and things like that. When he's issuing the challenge, so it seems quite strange to me. I don't know. When Dapper told me that, I was kind of like, huh? You're the one out here picking fights for the most part, or asking people to come and debate you.
Right, especially since he's debated both of us in the past.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if the only out here, and I'm willing to put this forward, even though I don't necessarily buy it, is that maybe because the secretary is new, she didn't know that he had already debated this, but I could have sworn you mentioned that we had an interaction before.
Well, the thing is, he asked for any previous, his secretary asked for previous debates that we'd had. I sent him my debate with him and your debate with him. So she had to know that he had interacted with both of us because I literally sent her links to our debates.
Yeah, that's quite weird. I think Kent is probably, this is speculation, of course, but I could see him kind of rolling that back, because after the stuff that's happened at Dinosaur Adventureland recently, I think he's going to have a lot fewer readily debatable people. I know I know of quite a few people who aren't willing to chat with him anymore after what happened. So I can't imagine that he's going to be very picky for very long. Unless, of course, he just claims victory and says no one's willing to...
having to sign the your life in your hands disclosure before entering on the ticket?
Yeah. So, you have to, when you come into Dinosaur Adventureland, apparently, and I haven't confirmed this personally, although I did try once when I was in Alabama, but apparently, upon entry to Dinosaur Adventureland, you are informed that you are entering Dinosaur Adventureland at your own risk, and that they do not have insurance, nor do they accept any liability for anything that happens to you. So, yeah.
On your own, kids.
Can you imagine if
What could go wrong?
had something like that? You walk
If they ever graduate up to the farting Brachiosaurus water slide, then that could get even more disastrous.
I mean, I'm genuinely picturing someone going into the Creation Museum and having the giant, allosaur skeleton collapse upon them, and then being told that they can't sue.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, as far as I can tell, the people that built both the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter are actually very skilled professionals who work in like theme parks and stuff. So I imagine all their stuff is actually fairly safe and well constructed.
A lot of them are Amish, I thought, which means they're quite handy with wood.
Yeah. So
the woodworkers, yeah.
Well,
but there was one of their guys that built audio animatronic stuff. He worked at Universal.
Oh, really? Huh.
So the thing we have to remember about Ken Ham is that he has millions of dollars to play with. Kent Hovind has his 777 club where he's basically begging people to send him checks for $1 a day. He's asking for weekly or monthly checks, sorry. But one of the other things I want to point out is that $1 a day is excessive compared to what most people ask for. Like my Patreon starts at $1 a month, not $1 a day. If you're giving me $1 a day on my Patreon, you're going to be in second place for donations, right behind Bent Hovind, who is currently my only Archosaur tier guy. That's the $50 thing. Which, by the way, reminds me, tomorrow I have to script his requested video because he gets to tell me what to do. That's the thing. If you give me $50 a month, you get to get it. Just tell me, hey, make this video, and I'll just make it. So, by the way, I'll keep that in mind. As a little preview for those of you who are watching, he has asked me to take a look at the linguistic absurdities of the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode Darmok.
That's gonna be weird.
It is gonna be weird, but I actually have a lot to say about it, so it'll be good. So that's gonna be the thing I script tomorrow, while I'm waiting for my FAQ video frames to render. Because I'm also making an FAQ video. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I've gained over 100% of my I've increased my subscriber count by over 100% in the last month or so. So people have been asking a lot of questions, and I feel like I should answer them. And only 2 of them are answered or are asked and answered entirely in Klingon. Only 2. There will be subtitles in case it helps.
Well, after all, I mean, you should have expected this because of being a dapper dinosaur, the tie, and the little hat's going to be getting you people. I mean,
no, absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Well, obviously, actually,
who would not follow a dinosaur in a top hat?
Of course.
I think the 3 of the questions are about the tie. Honestly.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. No
Ceratosaurus would be so dapper.
Well, it's only me, right? So one of the questions is how do you put your tie on? What makes your tie stick, and why does it sometimes glitch out? Because if you watch my videos carefully, you'll notice my tie glitch out occasionally. So the real reason, by the way, that my tie glitches out, and
the malignant powers of the beach.
Yeah, I wish, but actually the real reason is that one of the last steps I usually do in my animation is I complete the cloth simulation on my tie. Because until everything else is done, I can't rely on the cloth simulation to be accurate. However, if on the off chance I'm tired and exhausted and not in the mood to keep working on this animation, I may forget to hit the 4 or 5 buttons it takes to do that. In which case, the tie
out of here.
Right, the tie just goes crazy. So,
Oh my god.
yeah, it's one of those things
So
where
if I were to say, is the tie due to a stiff wind or is it just excited? That would be considered rude.
yes, a little bit. Actually, in my my April Fool's video,
Yeah. Okay. I got that settled.
yes, but actually in my April Fool's video, I added a wind effect to the tie. So if you watch that for while I'm on screen, it actually blows in the wind a little bit. And my favorite bit about that video is it's like 14 minutes long, and that's because like the actual video is like 2.5 minutes long, and then I just added the rest of it as like an extra filler bit that's just a looping animation that says you should go away now in a few different ways. Basically, so that when people click on it, they don't think that it's an April Fool's video, because why would it make a 14-minute long April Fool's video? And it's
to drag this back to poor lonely Colton. Is there anything in the debate you had with Nephi that you wanted to get in that you didn't, or area that you wanted to explore more, or you were pretty satisfied as to how well you covered all the material?
I mean, I think I covered it fine. His argument,
Nephi is in the chat.
I don't know. There's nothing I have really to cover at this point.
What were your thoughts overall on the entire thing?
It was fun.
I came in late.
I definitely feel like we were talking past each other, because as I'm going through the different charts and stuff I have and examples of how different sediments don't just stay for hundreds upon hundreds of kilometers in flat strata, they bend and interfinger and pinch off. I don't think we were conceptualizing of the same thing, and I'm still not entirely sure what the problem is with an environment changing, so the sediment that gets deposited in it changes. I mean, that's the whole basis behind like sea transgressions. So I don't know.
Mm.
Well, I doubt Nephi will have thought about this on his own, and it's not an issue that's dealt with really in the creationist literature, so he'd have to be winging it.
Yeah, I haven't run into that argument on any creationist website before, so I don't know what it's getting at, I guess.
Yeah. Dapper. Unless he's not here. In which case. Nephilim Free has left a string of comments and then said goodnight. Who's going to read them out? Because somebody really should.
What did he say?
I guess I'll read them. Wait, hold on. Let me scroll back up to where I can see him. Okay, I think I got him here. Oof. Yikes.
No one expresses pompous outrage better than Neff.
All right, so Nephi says, Downard says the dueling dinos were buried by Aeolian process. They are in sandstone. Were they fighting for years, waiting for sand to slowly bury them with the Protoceratops still on its feet? Then he says, evolutionists will deny everything about science to defend their goofy ideas and creation denial. It's pitiful to see. Good night.
You missed the best one.
Which one did I miss?
Did Dunes not?
What an idiot!
Wait,
That's the one. Obviously, it's such a great addition.
Wait, I didn't. I'm
And
not
see, that's why I can't take his whole, I can't see how this environment could change very seriously, because if that's what he thinks happens in an Aeolian environment and that whole dunes don't collapse, yeah, no wonder you don't get it.
That if something is buried in a sand dune and then eroded away, it's now preserving the bodies, and unless it's disturbed, it's going to stay there.
Yeah, how strange. I mean, he's the one who's talking about rapid burial. Does a sandstorm not constitute rapid burial?
Yeah, he says he knows that.
Yeah, and it's an example he brought up.
Right.
He says he knows that uniformitarianism accepts catastrophic events, but he immediately goes to everything being buried slowly, to the fossils and such, despite the fact that we know nearly all fossils are formed rapidly.
It is fair that
buried rapidly.
It is fair that some of the creationists are allowing some of that stuff. The Missoula floods, of course, they put that in the flood context. They're kind of.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of it in the context of catastrophes that aren't just localized. Like they're saying we don't accept global catastrophes of any sort, Because you do run into that claim in the creationist.
Like the late heavy bombardment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, by the way,
Or more so, when I meant that Ord and Reed misrepresent us, it's specifically because they keep insisting that to be a real uniformitarian, you have to appeal only to processes observed in the present with a modern counterpart. And
by the way,
they do say that. He can say it's bullshit, but they do say that.
One second. We have a 199 super chat from Vandalia in 1998, a friend of the channel whose channel I think everyone here has been on.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
I'm not sure. TD Lane, have you been on Vandalia 1998 channel?
I haven't, although if I start making videos, I might.
Everyone but
Lane
TD Lane.
I think I have.
TD Lane isn't one of the cool guys, so he hasn't been
They're
on.
making videos. I encourage
I
everyone
fix
to.
that.
But for 199, he says, saying hi from the McDonald's back drive-thru. Well, hello, and I hope that your shift, which, my goodness, do you work the night shift normally? That's a little rough. I worked that for a while. And there are advantages, but there are also big disadvantages. So, yeah. Yeah. So, hi. Thank you for your super chat. I hope you are having a nice and safe night and a hygienic one, because as the food service thing, I got to be honest, I've been doing a whole lot less food service industry purchases just because I'm like, I don't know. I'm in what you call a high risk group because I have a pre-existing complication in that I am significantly more susceptible to respiratory infections than the average person.
Be careful, man.
Yeah. In fact, when I was in the Navy, I had I had a bout of pneumonia that was bad enough that they told my department to expect that I would not make it through the week. So, yeah. So I'm, as you might imagine, this has been a pretty high stress time for me.
I resolve viruses and bacteria by talking them to death.
I can believe that.
Yeah, actually, for you and you only, RJ, I think that might be a reasonable route. But actually, I left the house for about an hour or so today to go try and take care of some minor legal matters, not super serious. Like I'm not a lawsuit or anything, but just some.
When the grass gets higher, I got to mow the lawn. Colton.
Yeah.
So you feel this as your first debate thing, that this is kind of like your baptism of fire, and you'll feel more comfortable about doing other ones?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm available to host debates. I think Erica probably is too. Once we get her to figure out how to do live streams, which we're gonna have to tutor her on, guys.
Yeah,
So,
I could probably use some tutoring on. I have a Streamlabs account, and I know I have live streaming active now on RJ's after that little screw up like 2 months ago.
All right. Well,
So,
Erica,
yeah.
we'll start with Erica because she's got the channel up and going. So, Erica, send me a message on Twitter tomorrow when you're up and awake again. And we'll go through some stuff. We can do a Skype call or something, and we'll get it figured out.
Live streams make me nervous. I'm comfortable coming on live streams because it's fine, but hosting them feels like taking on a new responsibility.
It's not that bad, by the way. Oh, and we have TD Lane's screen, which, by the way, I'm going to add.
Where did you get your theme music from, Erica?
Mine? Oh man, I
love that theme song.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a funny story.
Yeah.
When the quarantine started, I started running a lot when I was in the UK. This was like when it was first beginning. This was back in like mid-January when people, at least the academics in my circle, were like, hey, maybe you guys should consider self-quarantining a little bit. This might start to get bad. And I just started listening to an electro swing playlist on my Spotify. And so I put on the electro swing playlist and go run down to, it's kind of like the equivalent to Walmart, like the Asda. And that song came on over and over and over again. Like it just kept appearing on my playlist. And finally I was like, I started getting stuck in my head. It's called Mayflowers. And it's by Pro Leader. I was like, man, at first I kind of hated it. I was like,
it's
man,
excellent.
Yeah, and then I started really liking it, and I was like, "Damn, this is kind of like a bop. Like I'm really into this." It started getting me really hyped up to go running.
It's jaunty and it has the right pacing to it. It's just, and with the animation, that you put in there as well. It just sets the perfect tone. I love it.
Yeah, and so I just kind of was like, and when I was, making the new intro, I was like, man, what should I use for an intro music? And I was like, probably that freaking electro swing song that gets stuck in my head all the time. I've been warned that it's copyrighted. But before I started using it, I checked it, and it said that it was a version that was royalty free. So hopefully I don't get copyright striked on it. I haven't so far.
You know what I realized I should have
call you off, then we'll know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Erica, if there is a problem with it, contact Bent Hovind. He may be able to help you out because he's the one who did my intro song. And so, that could help. And also, we have an important question here from T-Back. He says, okay, I got a problem. I'm listening to y'all and playing Stardew Valley, and Leah is mad at me. Should I divorce her?
No.
It depends. How's the Stardew Valley game going? Who are they courting in Stardew Valley?
I think Leah might be his IRL partner.
If Leah is jealous of the Stardew Valley partner, then wait. No. I'm playing Stardew Valley and Leah's mad at me. I think Leah's a Stardew Valley character. Let me double check.
She is.
Oh, she is? Okay. If she's a Stardew Valley, then
don't divorce Leah. You need a partnership.
Get rid of her. She's not worth it, man. You can do better. You can get Rebecca, a thing I just made up.
Personally, I think you should
Rebecca of Sunnybrook
more
Farm.
money.
There was something I forgot that I really, really should have brought up, and I only realized it because that geologist who doesn't want to be named texted me in the middle of it, but I wasn't looking at my phone to be polite. Part of something that might have made it clear to Neff about how sediments can change very quickly are varves.
Yeah.
And how they change seasonally into very thin layers.
Corp,
Yeah,
do not.
Although if he's even marginally familiar with the creationist literature, he'll deny those are what they are either.
Yeah, well, that's his problem.
Here's the thing. You always think of better things to say after the conversation is over. So don't beat yourself up too much. That has happened to me more times than I can count.
It's what Oscar Wilde called carriage wit.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's a good way of putting it.
You get in the carriage to drive away, and you're like, oh, wait, what if
on the way home you go, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody with Colton. There's always something where you go, ooh, I should have said this. Yeah.
Hey, that's just remembering.
But overall, I thought it worked quite nicely. And the fact that you were still going at him after such a long period of time showed A, he had not rage quit, and B, you had not exploded. So you're both ahead.
Honestly, I was a little surprised. So a while back, Standing for Truth, who, by the way, I hope you're watching this, Standing for Truth. I don't have anything against you, Standing for Truth. I actually quite like you. So yeah, I liked your one appearance on my channel. Please don't.
He's watching a movie with his wife, I think.
So okay, well maybe he'll watch it later. I don't know what he does. But I honestly don't have any particular problems with Standing for Truth. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I think we get along fairly well. So, but I will say, Standing for Truth told me that Nephi had improved recently. So I watched a few things with Nephi, and that's why I was willing to have him on my channel for the other after show with G-Man, or the G-Man Erica debate, where he came on after G-Man had left. And then he purported himself on my channel just like he had in all the previous times I'd watched him, which is why I'd stopped watching him. But then again, tonight he did better. So I think what's happening is actually that he has two modes. He has one mode where he is on a channel that's broadly friendly to him, and a different one where he's on a channel that's broadly not friendly to him. So I'm not sure what that means for my willingness to actually engage with.
You correlated it with the phase moon.
Well, maybe the moon phase. We also have a $199 super chat from Mothra J Disco, which, by the way, I gotta give a shout out to all my Godzilla fans and associated, kaiju fans and stuff. Let's see. Read HP Lovecraft or build Legos. Support the dino. I appreciate that. And here's my answer. HP Lovecraft is public domain, which means you can find audio recordings of essentially all of his texts. So what I'm going to say is, Mothra J Disco, go find an audio recording of At the Mountains of Madness, listen to the whole thing, while you build Legos. If that's too long, then I suggest switching to the Doom that came, or the Doom of Sarnath, or the Doom that came to Sarnath, or whatever the title is. The one I'm talking about. Listen to that one instead, because it's shorter. And there you go. Or I'm actually particularly fond of the Witch House, even though I know it's not one of the people don't like the Witch House. I don't get why. That's another option. Listen to the Dreams in the Witch House. I don't know. People don't like it. Yeah. Or Reanimator. Reanimator is really good too. It was actually made into a pretty good movie starring
quite a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it starred Combs. What's Combs' first name is something.
Yes.
Combs,
whose name escapes me too. Yeah.
Yeah, his first name is I don't remember.
In fact, I think he actually had a bit more of a career because he was in Reanimator.
Yeah, and then Jeffrey Combs. It's Jeffrey Combs. Reanimator Jeffrey Combs, and Jeffrey Combs then went on to be like 8 different characters in Star Trek.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Combs. Yeah, Mothra J. Disco has it. Yeah, Jeffrey Combs. And Andy Lord also has it. So yeah, those are my options. Do some Lovecraft while you're doing other things, and try to gloss over the blatant racism as much as you can, which means maybe don't listen to The Rats on the Walls, even though it's a really good story, because the name of the cat is...
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, shall we say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like The Shadow over Innsmouth. That was the one I was trying to think of that I like.
Ooh, that's a really good one, too. Oh, also, Nicolas Cage was in an adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft movie, or H.P. Lovecraft story recently. He was in The Color Out of Space, which apparently was primarily shot in black and white, and then to emphasize the alienness of the color, the effects of the color were actually in color in the movie.
Huh.
Which I think is a clever way to do it, although reactions to the movie have been fairly mixed, so... I mean, it's a Nicolas Cage movie, so he's...
As is often the case
Nicolas Cage is a wonky one. Hilarious, but wonky.
Yeah, he's very much got the Adam Sandler effect, right? It's like he almost has to pay homage with really, really terrible movies before he can have a good one. And then
that's the thing about Adam Sandler is most of what he puts out is just trash, but then every once in a while he's like, oh, hey, look, here's Punch Drunk Love. And I'm like, oh, this is...
Here's Uncut Gems. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is amazing. Why aren't more of you...
I'm still waiting for the movie version of Phileas Fogg.
I will say, you'll never walk out of a Nicolas Cage movie unentertained.
No, that's true. That's true.
There will be...
he's a talented actor, even in Drek.
Oof. Yeah. I believe he was in, and then I'm probably going to let you guys go because it's 1:00, and I'm attempting to get on a better sleep schedule because I need to start getting up and working out and doing things.
Erica, just stay on East or West Coast time, just like me. It'll be way better for you, I promise.
What I need, listen, it was bad enough when my schedule when I was in the UK was so bad. I noticed. 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning and then sleeping until 1 or 2. Terrible.
I noticed.
I'm trying to be on a better schedule. But I was going to bring up that Nick Cage was in a movie adaptation of Left Behind, which is...
Oh my God, yes he was.
Incredible book series about the raptures.
It somehow managed to be worse than the original version, which starred, what's the guy's name from Growing Pains?
No, I know the guy.
Kirk Cameron.
Yes, Crocodile Kid.
Yeah, it somehow managed to be worse than the Kirk Cameron version, which actually I know a number of people who are not big proponents of that brand of Christian.
Pureflix Entertainment.
Well, yeah, basically. Well, so the thing is, like, the whole Left Behind series takes very seriously this idea about, like, the rapture and whatnot. And the thing is, while the rapture has sort of permeated, like, pop culture about Christianity, in terms of actual Christian theology, it's actually fairly restricted to a very small number of groups. Like, it's actually not a popular idea. It was invented in I believe, the mid-1800s. And basically no one believed in a rapture before that.
Well, yeah, that's
only really gained kind of popularity in the middle of the 20th century in the little niches that it got popularity with.
So despite that, it's actually one of the few instances of like explicitly like fundy Christian media that I know has fans outside of that sort of niche group audience. So I actually know people who are I would say, stridently anti-Christian who still enjoy that book series. So, hey, apparently it's well written. I don't know. I haven't read it.
It's a wild ride. I've never read it either, but I've known people who have, and I think one time I looked up like the Wikipedia summary, and I was like, this is something else.
I mean, like people like fantasy literature. So if you just take it as fantasy literature, apparently it's fairly good. I don't know.
Now, you can't go wrong with fantasy literature because at the very least,
yeah, you can play along in the same way. You don't have to actually believe in vampires to watch a good vampire movie.
That's true, and I mean, I read Dracula. Actually, I'm thinking about doing Dracula on my off-topic channel as a series of I'll read a chapter and I'll put it up as a video and I'll put it in a playlist so you can have me read Dracula.
You'll have to do every version of Dracula though.
Yeah, it's never had a good film version.
It's had
they always tinker with it.
It's had passable film versions in my opinion. Like none of them were as true to the book as I would like, but one of the things is the book is a weird sort of thing because it's in this modified epistolary format, and so basically the book is a collection of things like diary entries, news clippings, interview records, things like that. So it's a very strange book to try and adapt. But I
found it very visual myself. I had no trouble with it. It's very different from Frankenstein, which is really hard to adapt because it's so wordy.
Yeah.
I thought Twilight was the best Dracula adaptation.
Oh my God, no.
Are we still hating on Twilight? Is that still something cool kids can do?
Yes. So here's the thing, right? Like we don't have to go out and preach about how bad Twilight is. However, the Still a Better Romance Than Twilight is still a meme that I'm totally 100% in support of. And
I support bringing back old memes. Some old memes needed to never die, and they are still funny.
Here's my thing about Twilight, right? Twilight took 3 or so books to really bring its sort of romance story to a completion, and it was really bad at it. Disney, Pixar, managed to do that in like 5 minutes in the movie Up. And they did a way better job of it than Twilight did over the course of like 4 movies.
That opening, I've seen Up. Compared to the other Pixar movies, I've probably seen Up almost the least amount of times just because it's such a bummer, but it's so good.
Well, here's the thing.
It's very good.
If you can get through...
They're geeking out in the way we do with the Titanic.
That's fine.
Look, if you can get through Up without tearing up towards the end of that opening sequence, that's like the opening montage of the love story, then you're just an inhuman jerk, and you should stop interacting with the humans. Because
I liked Up.
The opening bit of Up that leads up to why this guy wants to put a whole bunch of balloons on his house and fly away is the most heartwarming and then tragic thing that you've ever seen. It tells one of the best love stories that I think has ever been told, and it does it in like 5 minutes of no dialogue. It's amazing.
As far as I'm not really a
That's
crier.
a silent film aesthetic.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm not really a big crier when it comes to movies. Some movies I cry in, some movies I don't. Up, I definitely cried in, and then I also made the mistake quite recently when I was flying back home, or rather back to the UK in December or something like that. I decided to watch Marley and Me on the plane.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
Yeah, which I had seen it as a child, but I was like, I don't know when it came out. I was like 8 or 10 or something like that. I was quite young. And I remember thinking it was very sad. But I thought, you know what? I'm stronger. I can rewatch this movie. No. I'm going to be fine. And I was a bawling wreck on the flight. And the person next to me was like, oh my God.
Honestly, though, Erica, I don't know that I've actually cried in a movie. I've gotten a little watery-eyed a few times. Mm-hmm. But honestly, your video where you started off with the dog epitaphs, I teared up a little bit. I was like, oh, and like, because there were all these really heartfelt epitaphs about people who were so attached to their dogs, and then they died, and it was thousands of years ago, and they're writing these heartwarming stories about their dogs and what a good dog they were, and I was just like, oh my god.
We can all be on the same page as a scale of humanity that losing a pet is just one of the hardest things out there, and it sucks because they just don't live as long as us. And I've got my dog sitting right here. If you go back and watch the debate with Colton and Nephi, I'm just feeding her pieces of food throughout the debate.
Like Doctor Who with the companions.
Yeah, basically. So, actually, I'm having to get ready for that with my pets because I'm realizing like they might have a couple more years at a good, like, absolute maximum optimism. They might have 5 more years, but probably not. Most likely they have maybe a couple years, and they might have less. So
my niece's dogs are like that. They're old dogs, and she's just holding on with them, and I know that she'll just fall apart when any of them go.
It is the worst. And the thing is that I worked as a vet assistant for about a year, I'd say. And that's just something that you don't ever get over, right? Like, seeing people like saying bye to their friends is just the shittiest thing out there. Like, there's just nothing worse. But I am a big proponent of if your companion is in pain, the ethical thing to do is to be there with them. And
I agree.
Yeah, and you know what really sucked is that a lot of people would bring their pet in, and then because they couldn't handle it, they would leave. So the euthanasia would occur without their owner.
Oh.
And it's like, this poor animal doesn't know what's going on. It's like their owner just left, their friend just left, and now they're by themselves and they're scared. And so it's like, you got to be there as a total stranger trying to comfort. It sucks. I'm going to make people cry about that, but you owe it to them to wait with them while that happens. I mean,
yeah, I actually,
Futurama, that's another one.
Oh my goodness, the
entire show.
Yeah. Luck of the Irish,
comedy. It is really just
the 2 Futurama episodes that always get me are the one where Fry gets to say goodbye to his mom.
Oh, that's Game of Tones.
Yeah, and the one where they find the fossil of his dog.
Yeah, that's
and in both of those, I'm just like, this is supposed to be a comedy cartoon. Oh no, the third one is the one where he finds out about his nephew, Philip J. Fry, with the same name. All 3 of those, every time, I don't quite cry, but I tear up, and I'm just like, why is this comedy cartoon making me want to cry?
Oh yeah,
they're really good.
Great comedy ultimately is based upon pain.
Yeah, and
sadness.
It's
what we do. Instead of crying, we laugh.
Futurama was an excellent, it was an all around amazing show, and it was canceled several times too early.
It had a good run though, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, If you haven't seen it and you're out there in the audience,
I'll recommend for this time of gloom, the On the Beach, the feel good end of the world movie from 1959.
I don't think I've seen that. I'll have to.
You need to see On the Beach with Stanley Kramer. It's about an atomic war. It was made in 1959, very controversial because of its anti-war message, and it's set in the year 1964 when the radiation from the atomic war is about ready to kill everybody, and everybody's down in Australia.
The far future of 1964. Submarine comes in.
Gregory Peck. Yeah, Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner and Fred Astaire playing a dramatic part. Tony Perkins before Psycho. And you will never be able to hear Waltzing Matilda ever again without tearing up.
Okay. That reminds me, I like watching sci-fi movies that are set in the past because they were set in the future when they were made. So like there's a movie from it's 1968. When are we going to set this movie? Oh, the far future of 2004.
Arthur C. Clarke wanted to have the science fiction. Clarke wanted to have the science fiction writer of America motto to be "The future isn't what it used to be."
Oh my God.
That's fair. And actually, it makes me a little bit sad that the Star Trek timeline has already diverged from reality. So now it's actually more of an alternate history than just a straight sci-fi.
So sad.
I know, because in the 90s,
they have to.
Wars. I don't remember Khan Noonien Singh taking over India.
2001.
Yeah. Well, no, Star Trek.
We're about ready to hit.
So in Star Trek, the earliest time
We're
frame.
about ready to hit Metropolis time.
Yeah, that's true. RJ, you're I don't know why, but your delay is really bad.
Yeah, RJ, I think you need to turn your video off.
Yeah, I even shut down Just Evil. I think it's this format. It's StreamYard is a data hog or something. I have everything else closed down.
It could be.
Yeah.
But, like, as far as I know, the first divergence of real history that Star Trek has, like basically the earliest time that they do anything significant in the timeline, is the Augment Wars that are correlated with World War III that take place in the early 90s. Okay. So basically, Star Trek had already become alternate history by the time Star Trek: The Next Generation finished. Yeah, like Star Trek has been not been able to just sell itself as just a pure projection of the future for 30 years now.
And this is why I like Warhammer 40,000, because
you could do
it's
a
so
whole
far in the
film
future.
festival of alternate futures.
Sorry.
You could, yes, you could.
Yes, but TD Lane, I do agree. One of the nice things about Warhammer 40K is it's like, oh, we're taking place 40,000 years in the future. And the earliest time frame that we have any real good evidence for is like 20,000 years in the future. So whatever else happens, it's fine. But I do like to think, by the way, that Event Horizon, if you've seen that movie, which is not very highly rated. I think it's a little underrated, but it's still not terribly good. That movie is a prequel for Warhammer 40,000.
Oh, Event Horizon, really?
Yeah. So the thing about Warhammer 40,000 is that when they do their FTL thing, they have to jump into what's called the warp, which is a dimension parallel to our own where time doesn't really work the same way. And it's full of demons and horrors and all sorts of torture monsters and things.
I can
time warp
things
again.
like enslavers.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Oh, maybe some psychic frog people too.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing though, is like I feel like Event Horizon is like a stealth 40K sequel because they try to do a super like an FTL ship and they jump into another dimension and it's full of like I don't know, BDSM demons.
That's 40K right there.
40K right there. That, exactly.
Yeah.
There's an SCP that that's like the mid-dimensional SCP. Like they essentially try to hop dimensions, but someone gets caught in between the spaces.
Oh, the guy who gets caught. Yeah, it's called In Between the Spaces. The dude who gets caught, the one doctor, and he's left with a little red light on the terminal.
Yeah,
his body starts decaying away.
I thought it was called a red dimension.
Maybe. All I know is that there's a similar one where there's a prison cell that when you lock someone in it after writing their name on a sheet, it sends them to that place for an indefinite amount of time.
Oof.
Which to you feels like 5 minutes, but to them can feel anything from weeks to 10,000 years.
That reminds me of the White Christmas, I think. Yeah, White Christmas episode of Black Mirror.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's quite good. It's very similar. It's essentially like time dilation, right? So like you turn a switch, someone. It's a long story. I don't want to ruin it.
Okay, but Erica, I have a question for you. Have you read the most hominid or hominin associated SCP that doesn't involve actual Homo sapiens, which is SCP-1000?
Is that the one that's Bigfoot?
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask. If it was
Yes, it's Bigfoot. Have you read it?
It's really good. The ultra-dimensional one?
No, he's not ultra-dimensional. So I'll summarize it a little bit. So
his name is Dwayne.
So SCP-1000 starts with a fake SCP entry where it says SCP-1000 is a hominid ape that is relatively closely related to humans, but it contains this anomalous disease that.
What does SCP stand for?
Secure, Contain, Protect. It's like a creepypasta wiki basically that all has the same sort of format. And the format is there's this SCP Foundation, and they write clinical tone documents documenting all these horrific supernatural events and items and entities, right? So SCP-1000 starts with a fake version that says that, SCP-1000 is commonly known as Bigfoot, and they all have this horrible disease that they're all immune to, but it devastated their population because when they initially were infected with it, they weren't immune to it. And anyone who sees them has a really high chance of both catching it and dying with it a certain amount of time. So we have to protect everyone from seeing SCP-1000. But then, if you have like security level of 4 or whatever, which of course, as a reader of the wiki, you do, then they're like, oh, the previous SCP entry was a lie. And SCP-1000, Bigfoot, was actually like they actually started their own huge advanced civilization with high technology and whatnot, tens of thousands of years before, Homo sapiens civilization started. But Homo sapiens, they got a hold of some of the technology and they decided they were tired of being trodden upon by the Bigfoot, and they wiped them out almost entirely. And now we're worried that if they start coming back, they'll conquer us again, and we'll be once again not subservient, but just secondary to the SCP-1000 Bigfoot.
The one I hate, I can't remember its number, but it's a memetic hazard where if you learn about it, when you die, you will remain conscious and feel every last atom in your body decay away.
What comes after?
And so eventually they weren't really clear if they knew it was a memetic hazard or if they just decided to forget about it, because who would want to live the rest of their life knowing that that's what awaits you?
The clever thing about that is that
I gotta go.
Oh, all right.
Go, gang.
All right, RJ.
Bye, RJ. The clever one about that one, which, by the way, we've gone way off topic by now, but the clever one about what comes after is that it's still a little bit ambiguous in the SCP itself, whether it's a memetic hazard or whether that's actually supposed to be a legitimate answer to the whole afterlife thing. I think that only when you notice that there are other afterlife-related SCPs can you make the conclusion that it's a memetic hazard. But if you just take it as its own entry, it's not clear. Is it a memetic hazard, or is it actually the afterlife that you feel all of your atoms disintegrating, your flesh rotting? Which, by the way, feeling yourself rot was more or less the plot of The Return of the Living Dead, which is the movie from which zombies got their brain-eating trope.
Huh.
Yeah, because in Return of the Living Dead, the zombies can talk. And so that's where you get the idea that zombies are after brains. And so there's this one female zombie on an examination table. She doesn't have any arms or legs. I don't even think she has hips, but she has like a torso and a face. And she says things like, "I can feel myself rot." And she's like, "I'm in pain." And they're like, and the living characters are asking her like, what helps with this? And she says, brains make the pain stop.
Oh God.
Yeah, right. It's Return of the Living Dead is it's a weird thing. Also, John A. Romero not involved at all in Return of the Living Dead because he co-produced Return of the Living Dead with another guy who is the producer of that movie, and I don't remember his name. But the other guy, for some bizarre legal reason, retained the copyright to the name The Living Dead, which is why all of John A. Romero's other films involving zombies are just The Dead, like Night of the Dead, or Return of the Dead, or Day of the Dead, or Bloodline of the Dead, or whatever. So it's actually not technically a sequel to Return of the Living Dead, even though it purports to be. Huh. But yeah, it's a whole weird legal thing.
Yeah,
but that's the movie.
Yeah, that the legal stuff is bizarre.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't get it. I have a cousin who's a lawyer, but he's not the kind of lawyer that most people consult. So, yeah, so it's a whole bizarre thing. But yeah, that whole idea that zombies are after your brains comes from Return of the Living Dead, where the idea was the zombies were infected by this trioxin compound, which is what they called it. And it reanimated dead tissue, and it made it so that if there was a relatively decently intact brain, it could experience all of the things that were happening to its body. And the only thing that relieved the pain of the decay of the flesh was eating brains. Yeah, it was actually really dark.
Yeah, that's definitely, thank you. That's definitely taking it to the next level. Yeah, zombies are a weird deal. We seem, we all have an innate fear of the dead. There's some weird anthropology behind that,
Well,
mortality is scary.
It is, and actually, I mean, like the living dead are a fairly common thing. In fact, there's this what is it? I think it's like Witches of Bali or something like that, and it plays on those ideas where they take these ideas of these somewhat vampiric monsters from Bali folklore. And the idea is that the head of the corpse will fly off, and the lungs and intestines will be attached to the head as they fly off of the corpse.
Oh God!
And then they'll go feed on people. Of course, what Witches of Bali does is it has a white girl as the main character, because it's made in the 70s, and so she has a local boyfriend, but it's primarily about her. But she wants to learn this witch magic because she's doing an anthropology degree. And what do you do when you're doing anthropology? You go and find black magic and you study it. Right, that's how anthropology works. But so
that's what Indiana Jones did.
It's Mystics of Bali. That's what it was. I forgot the name. But so then at one point she finds this witch, and one night they turn into pigs and they go rummaging around the countryside, and another night they turn into snakes, and she swallows some mice whole, and the next morning she vomits up the whole mice. But then one night she turns into this head plus organs vampire thing, and she sucks out the fetus from a pregnant woman, and I'll let your imagination go for how she does so. But it's the way that you're imagining.
God.
Yeah, it's exactly the way you're imagining.
Dude, is this a book or a film?
No, it's a film. And the great thing is that as she's doing it, you can see the pregnant woman's stomach going down as she's sucking out the fetus.
Oh God!
And the montage.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's where I'm gonna go to bed. That lovely
That's my note too, guys. All right, I'm calling you more for help. See ya.
All right, Erica. Yeah, send me a message, and we'll talk.
Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone. It has been fun. Thank you for everyone who super chat, everyone who watched. I actually got more viewers than I thought I would on some random after show.
Yeah, almost 30.
So, I guess I'll end on some channel news. So tomorrow is a premiere. It's the next episode, I believe, of Noah's Zookeeper. Then Saturday, I have a stream with Colton, who was just on here. We're going to be doing Leaving Our Earth Creationism. Then Tuesday is actually going to be Eric with Erica. We're going to be doing Eric with Erica episode 2. Then Thursday after that will probably be my FAQ video, assuming it's done. And then the Saturday after that, I think I'm going to try and do a stream with Eric Viertaler about some creationist debunking stuff that he's been talking to me about. We still have to work out the actual details on that. If that doesn't work, it'll be a different thing. But yeah, that's channel news. And thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And we're out.